Hello and welcome to this printer tutorial video hosted by Adam Pearce of Strawberry 7. In this video I'm going to be showing you some little tips around printing on both Windows and Mac. Here we are on a Windows machine and we've got a simple Word document here that we can print. Most printing will be happening from Microsoft Word, so let's have a look at that to begin with. We go to File, Print. The first thing that we need to check is that we have the correct printer selected. In most schools there are multiple printers to choose from. Depending on what printer you choose, you may find a variance on capabilities. For example, some printers, such as photocopiers, might be able to staple, fold, hole punch, create booklets, whereas a simple printer like the one I've got here can't do any of those features. However, it can still print double-sided. So check what functions your printer has that you're sending to before you start looking for them and find that they aren't actually supported on the printer that you're printing to. So we've got the correct printer selected and we now have various options. We can either print all of the pages, in this case there's only one page, but if we had multiple pages we would be able to select certain pages to print here. This is whether we can print the document one side or both sides. When you print both sides, you can actually choose the orientation of the printing, whether the flip is on the long edge, which is the most common scenario, or whether it's on the short edge. We have collation options here. This is to do with when the pages come out, the default collation is that the last page is printed first, therefore it's on the bottom of the pile and you end up with the first page on the top. We've got print orientation, which is just landscape and portrait. This really should be set up in the document rather than on the print options in most cases, in most scenarios. This can easily be done by just going to Layout and then selecting orientation, either portrait or landscape. Let's go back to printing. We have our paper size here. Again, it would be best to set this in the document itself. This is done in a similar area to the orientation, as is the margins, which again would be best done in the document rather than waiting until you're printing the document. The reason for this is because when you're coming to print the document, if you suddenly start changing the page size, the orientation, the printer will do its best to print out what you're sending to it, but you may find that the corrections that it makes or the changes that are made to the document are undesirable. It's much better to do this in the document itself. And finally, we have whether we want one page per A4 sheet or whether we want multiple. Again, the most common is one page per sheet, but if you had a printer that was capable of printing A3, you may want to do 2 pages to create a booklet of some kind. So now that we've gone over the basic options here, we have a couple of other options here and here. One is print properties and one is page setup. Let's have a look at printer properties to begin with. This will be very dependent on each printer. It will be dependent on what the printer is capable of and also what driver version you have installed. This will give you different options as to what you can and can't do on the printer. If you find that you're one of our customers and you're printing to a printer that, say, has a stapling function, but you're unable to select it here, it may be that the incorrect driver is loaded on your computer. Just send an email to support@strawberry7.com and we'll look at this for you. If you're not one of our customers, please just contact your IT support, or if you don't have IT support, please feel free to contact us on support@strawberry7.com and we'll help you anyway. Here we can select where our paper source is. In this case, I have a choice between tray 1 and tray 2. Some printers have quite a few different trays. This is very useful if you're printing on, say, pink paper, or you're printing on pre-printed check paper, and you want to put that in a photocopier in, say, tray 4, and you want to make sure that this document is printing from tray 4. You could select it here. Here we have our paper size. Now this is defaulted to letter because a lot of printers default to letter as it's standard in America. You could select A4 here, however we have got A4 here and this should override what's happening over here. Here we have our print paper type. This is useful if you're printing onto card or you're printing onto glossy paper or something similar to that. Most of the time you'll be printing onto plain paper. We have quality settings. Again, these are probably not going to be adjusted, but it's quite useful to sometimes adjust these. Draft will print really quickly, for example, and if you're just printing out a simple Word document, you'll probably notice no difference in quality, but it will print a little bit quicker. Layout, we can start to see some of the same options that we've got down here. We don't need to set them in both places. Setting them here is fine. The reason that they're in both places is because this is being handled by the printer driver, whereas this is being handled by Word. So to try and make things a bit easier for you, Microsoft created this section which is standardized across most printers in the world, so that as a user you could just select your options here quickly without having to go into here and see a different interface and a different layout every time you went to a different printer. Now let's go to Page Setup. Page Setup will allow us to change the options which we can change within the document itself. We could change the margins, the orientation. This is actually going to change it on the document itself, not just for the purposes of the printing that we're going to be doing. Again, I would recommend that you do all of this in your document when you're working on it, preferably before you even start typing anything, and that will ensure that the document is laid out the correct way. All of those options can be accessed under Layout, and if you need the more advanced options, just click here on Page Setup and you'll see that the box is the same. This will allow you to change all of the same options that we were changing under the printer settings. Finally, once you've got all of your settings correct, you select the number of copies that you want and then hit print. Your document should then print out successfully. Now that we've taken a look at Microsoft Windows and Microsoft Word, let's have a little look at Mac. So, on a Mac, I have Microsoft Word here, and we'll do the same thing. We'll go to print. I'm going to do this by selecting Command P on the keyboard. This is quite a different interface to what we saw on Microsoft Word in Windows. However, once we start going through some of the options, you'll see some of the items are basically the same. They're just in different places. So, we select our printer to begin with, as we did before, and then we can choose some presets here. Personally, I don't use these presets, but you may find them useful to use. One of the most useful options that you may find is the fact that you can save your current settings as a preset. So if you have jobs that you repetitively do, for example, printing from a certain tray and printing in a certain collation, then you can select all of that, and when you're done, you can go back to here and click Save Current Settings as Preset and then give it a name. That way you won't have to reset the settings each time, you'll just select your preset. Now let's go down here. This is where we're going to select these different options, and this is what most people are unaware of on a Mac. When you move to these different areas, you'll notice that the menu underneath changes. So let's begin with copies and pages. We have our number of copies here, whether we want the items collated. what pages we want to print, or a page range, and we'll get a preview of what we're doing here, just like we would do in Word. Let's go to the next option, Microsoft Word. Most of the options here you won't want to alter, because you can alter these in different areas. But there are some more advanced Word options here that may be useful for you, particularly the print background colours and images. If you've changed the background colour of your document to blue or purple or something, a colour like that, or put an image on the background, you may need to select this checkbox in order for that to actually print out, otherwise it will just print out as a white page. If you've put a colour background and then made your text white, that means that it will appear that your document has not printed at all, because you'll have a white document with white text. Let's continue down. Media and quality. Here we have our tray selection like we did before, and our paper type and our quality. Under layout we have similar options, pages per sheet, whether we want it two-sided. We have an option for a border now as well. Whether we want to reverse the page orientation, and whether we want to flip horizontally or vertically. We also have these options here for long edge binding and short edge binding like we did before. Paper handling are some of the similar options that we saw in the Word options to do with printing odd or even pages and the order. And we can also scale to fit as well. This can be quite useful if you've got a document that's come to you in a slightly unusual size but you just want to print it on A4. We can add a cover page as well. This is again best done within the document. A watermark, again, I would recommend doing this within the document. And our supply levels just show us how much ink we have in our printer. Once we're ready, and we've set all of our settings, don't forget to save the preset if you need to, and then you can print your document.
Finally, as always, thank you for watching. That concludes this video tutorial. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below. If you have any suggestions for more videos you'd like to see, let us know. If you liked this video, please consider leaving us a like and subscribing to our channel for all the latest updates.